It's finally official. The Penguins have re-signed Sidney Crosby to a 2-year contract extension running through the 2026-2027 season and carrying an average annual value of $8.7 million. Once again, $8.7 million, matching his jersey number and his birthday, 8/7/87. His contracts have carried the same $8.7 million annual value since 08-09.
There's still hunger from the organization and ownership to win and a commitment there. And I think that's something that, I think for the time that I've been here, that's been the case and that's been there. And I think that's really important. I feel like as players, for all the different guys that have played here over the course of, the time that I've been here, it's something that you build as a culture. That's something that's, I think, ingrained, and not missing the playoffs for a couple of years, not being in it, is difficult. And you want to try to find every way possible to get back in there and make sure that we compete for the Stanley Cup.
And that was Sidney Crosby dropping off season ticket. He signs the contract, then he drops off season tickets to a season ticket holder at their house, and then he holds a press conference at their porch. I mean, what a guy he is, and he's leaving millions on the table. And here's Craig Button, by the way, our director of scouting. Great to see you, Craig. On Monday, GM Kyle Dubas said he wanted to commend Sidney Crosby for his commitment to the franchise and the success of the Penguins going forward. But my question for you, Craig, is if he plays for 3 more years, do you realistically think that the Penguins can contend for a Stanley Cup over the course of the next 3 seasons?
Well, there's work in progress, and Kyle Dubas is going to have to work to get the roster stronger, to get more depth in the lineup. And certainly over the course of time, Sidney Crosby, Kyle Dubas have conversations. There's dialogue back and forth. Sidney wants to know what the plans are for the future. And he wants to not have guarantees, but he wants to have assurances. And you heard him just talk about it. A commitment to winning, a commitment to contending. Do I see the team as a Stanley Cup contender as it's currently constructed? No. But that's just today, Jay. There's lots of time for Kyle Dubas to make maneuvers, to make transactions, and to strengthen the team. If we go back to the 2015-16 season, I mean, Mike Johnson had started out as the coach. They weren't really sure where they're at. There was questions about would Sidney Crosby be able to compete for a Stanley Cup again. They changed coaches, brought in Mike Sullivan. A bunch of young players came into the lineup, and away they went, winning back-to-back Stanley Cups in 16 and 17. So Sidney Crosby wants to hear what the plan is. He wants to have confidence that these are the steps that are going to be taken to try to give him a chance, because ultimately he's wired to win. He's wired to compete. You hear it in his voice about missing the playoffs 2 consecutive years. That's not what he's about. But at the same time, the template that he set with respect to setting a tone, a competitive tone, and a winning tone is something that he wants to ensure that is going to be a commitment by ownership to be able to move forward in that regard. And I think that what we see with him signing this 2-year extension that will make him a Penguin for the next 3 years, I think that he's got those assurances and he feels confident that the team can be constructed to give him a chance at a Stanley Cup.
Craig, later in the show, our mutual friend Brian Hayes will join us for Harvey's Hot Takes, and I have a feeling Brian will not be too happy about this Sidney Crosby contract extension, because Brian has made it very clear that he wanted Sidney Crosby to pull a Tom Brady and go chase a championship with a different team at the end of his career. Any part of you, Craig, wish that Sidney maybe had opened himself to that possibility and gotten to a contending team maybe quicker than he could if he just stayed with the Penguins?
Let's make one thing clear. The New England Patriots parted ways with Tom Brady. They weren't interested in bringing Tom Brady back. So Tom Brady said, I'm leaving too. And so we know what type of success he had with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers winning that Super Bowl. The Pittsburgh Penguins want Sidney Crosby. So I don't see this as an apples to apples comparison. And Sidney Crosby feels a great loyalty to the Pittsburgh Penguins organization. And again, I'm going to go back. He feels that the dialogue that he and Kyle Dubas have had gives him some confidence that the team can be constructed in such a manner that they can go and compete for a Stanley Cup. So I don't see it like Tom Brady, because the Pittsburgh Penguins want Sidney Crosby.
Craig, if you can stick around for a little bit, we know that Sidney Crosby will represent Team Canada in the Four Nations face-off coming up in February. You're an expert in this subject. I love talking to you about Team Canada. Craig and I are going to talk about potential line combinations for Sidney. That's coming up a little later on SportsCenter. But coming up next, he's 3 home runs, 2 stolen bases away from history. Shohei Ohtani's quest to become the first 50-50 player in baseball history continued Monday. We've got those highlights coming up on the show.